Technically, hi, good morning, good evening. Technically, this is the third take of the scenario that I did last year. When I kind of realized the power of counterfactuality. Um, so I decided to have, a simple talk with the guy, the BIIBZ. And we're using the BIIBZ as a code word for him so that no political action committee can use SEO or anything like that to try and do shit. So the code word is the BIIBZ, so you know. Oh.
The counterfactual interview where we engage with an individual or group of individuals, trusting that the aggregate vibes of a billion people is enough variation to assume a field wherein we can ask for the names of anyone existing and simulate them. The resulting simulation may not yield an exact biography, but will have enough of the core spirit software to make the resulting conversation as accurate as anything else, including interviewing the people themselves. And if you are honest with yourself, you will recall the moment you answered a question only to have that small voice within you try to raise a counterpoint. Cast. Benjamin Bibai, Netanyahu Benjamin Bibai, Netanyahu /net at Anja. Who /net at Enyahu Hebrew. Ben at Yamin en at Tan Yof. Romanized. Benjamin Netanyahu, pronounced Benjamin Netanyahu, born 21 October 1949, is an Israeli politician who has been serving as the Prime Minister of Israel since 2022, having previously held the office from 1996 to 1999 and again from 2009 to 2021. He is the chairman of the Likud party. Netanyahu is the longest tenured prime minister in the country's history, having served for a total of over 16 years. He is also the first prime minister to have been born in Israel after its declaration of independence. The following interview involves the Nakba, Israel independence, cybersecurity surveillance, the Israel-Hamas war, and the use of propaganda. A cafe, Endorphin sips half cream, half espresso, making a wider than usual smile, having to keep up appearances. Netanyahu blinks into view in front of coffee. Endorphin, thanks for making the trip to see me. Would you like a coffee? Netanyahu, where's this? Endorphin, oh, that's right. You weren't born yet. You were purely post-independence for Israel. It must be a trip. I get weirded out meeting people born after 9/11. I'm curious, when did you ever first hear about the Nakba? I'm not too versed in that history. Do you know? Bibai can't take coffee being caffeinated. His eyes scan the space without moving, a talent he's cultivated to evade mugshots. The sound of a loud crowd as his eyes bobbing, scanning for the window before they settle on Endorphin. Netanyahu, I was told you were asking questions. Endorphin. Yeah, ask about the history of the Nakba, the flight of the Palestinians. What did you hear first? Netanyahu. Heard about it 'cause my best friend's a Palestinian. Different families, different times. But we grew up friends in Jerusalem. Family had photos of where we used to live. They all look the same now, so no telling. Endorphin. You don't believe in the Nakba? Netanyahu, didn't grow up in Palestine, did I? Endorphin, Palestinians and my interviewer. Do you think the Nakba is a fiction? Netanyahu, always got to phrase it politically. Americans looking for debates rather than debates. Endorphin, Bulbo, idiosyncratic Israeli slang for foreigner, typically used in a derogatory manner. Netanyahu. Bibai gives a smile. I know some pales do not actually believe them. But it's not the whole picture, right? We have to live with what's done, not live in the past. Endorphin. Agree with that. Endorphin can appreciate, and at the same time is flummoxed by, the sense of reality BIIBZ is attesting to. That's why I try to extend my present whenever I can. Two officers come up to Endorphin and Netanyahu. You ready? Endorphin. Yep, 5 minutes? Officer. 2. Endorphin nods vigorously and gives a good fearful look, then covers it up with gregarious glow. Endorphin. We are on. Oh, I forgot to tell you, we are musicians, and we need to play this set or they will kill us. But smile as you do so. I was supposed to schedule rehearsal, but I forgot. I get so very tired after the workday. Don't worry, I uploaded the script and a few rehearsal memories, and it's muscle memory now. You'll do fine. Let's go! Endorphin and Netanyahu set up by the corner. Dancers are let in, blank faces, cloudy eyes. The officer looks at us with a resting begin face. Endorphin and Netanyahu begin playing their instruments. They slowly settle on a soothing, melodic sound, nothing to add into the body, yet it has a positive energy. The officer gets text, glances at the door, frowns and taps on his watch. Endorphin. All right, we've started already. Would you mind running through a few self-burners? These people look like they need it. Netanyahu frowns for a second, lost on what the command is. Can you change your choice a bit? Drake. The agent in the corner mumbles something as Endorphin gestures to him that the problem has been addressed. Suddenly, Netanyahu's entire view of the world shifts, and he immediately begins insulting himself and making scathing self-reflections, seemingly in real time. Netanyahu's scatting nonsense, in low, Endorphin singing praise, higher toned, with a synchronized metronome of beats and rhythms. Mid-performance, the same guard comes in with a chair for Endorphin. This adds tension to the rhythm and increases BIIBZ's guilt. Endorphin starts to tap a lower snare, which cuts off Netanyahu's pace. Endorphin glances to the guard with disapproval, who returns with a stern eyebrow and points to the door. Endorphin then continues playing Habash solo with a tap cymbal and screeching feedback from the electric guitar, keeping the tone light but slightly ominous. During the tempo drop, Endorphin starts beating louder, playing a steady groove with a heavy metal tone but a shaker and a ring sound. The dancers join in by clapping or moving their hands or bodies with a beat that feels familiar, filling the performance with sound. Endorphin takes the moment of emotional connection to express their concern for the current state of the world, hoping that Netanyahu will take note of the message. However, as the tempo builds back to the original groove, Netanyahu seems reluctant to open up about the Nakba in his. The Red Cross is here. This is where the performance has to have no flaw. We got lucky to have each other here today, but now we're stepping into red territory. This is when the fun runs out and the anxiety creeps in. What if the person behind this whole mess discovers who we are and sabotages our efforts? Strictly, the real human Endorphin that oversees the counterfactual interviews had no prior knowledge of BIIBZ's comments or their responses. With that, let's transition to a different character for the next exchange, one that cannot be simulated with information nor experience, someone who only exists in the imagination or thought of. Endorphin. Nice try, BIIBZ. But no, your people could not just walk away. You will not either. Smile for the Red Cross. They are here to see if the conditions in Sienstedt are humane. And so we are here to make merry so that we aren't dead tomorrow. Oh, by the way, if you stuffed any family jewels up in there, be a dear, plop them out. It's tacky to let the survivors have to rummage through you for them. Netanyahu, what? Endorphin. I thought you were okay with having to create a performance when it was necessary. That's why you allow a fake nurse and a camera crew in a hospital in Gaza talking about Hamas that hide in there to justify the bombing of the hospital. And make the set dressing the actual wounded, the babies whose incubators just shut down, the folks actually suffering really make believable the plotline you needed to continue your attacks, right? So I figure you should experience the inverse. where you must now play for your supper. And by supper, I mean your life. Some ancestors, if they are worth their salt, would want it this way. Netanyahu, not like in the direction of the question. Endorphin. Oh yeah, we're totally not actually thinking about what to ask him. We are simply imagining the dialogue. Netanyahu. Damn. Endorphin. Now that's more like it. She claps. An angel. Endorphin sighs a sigh. That'll do. She claps again. For the fun of it, I'll pretend they clap on the offbeat of the claps. Please hang tight till I get another set of dancing characters in. Did that look good? BIIBZ frowns. What? Here we go! 3 dancing couples suddenly start appearing, one dancing hand in hand with an adult, while one couple dances behind. Then, without any warning, the adult switches partners with the adult dancing behind, creating a mix-up of dancing couples. The 2 children start chasing each other, sometimes tapping, sometimes clapping. Netanyahu is clapping offbeat with them. Do you think people love me for it? He mutters. Endorphin shrugs. What a beautiful mystery. They stare at BIIBZ as he watches the dancing. Netanyahu glances at Endorphin, a bit wary of what they're implying. Was that really just me? He looks back at the dancing, unsure of himself. They're in hiding. BIIBZ concludes. Don't know how they managed it. Smile a little tighter. He whispers to the child on stage. You gotta out-teach him. The question Endorphin wanted to ask Netanyahu was about his rise to power. She's often wondered if he was born to fulfill his destiny as a statesman, or if he was a typical opportunist. She isn't quite sure how the question can be answered without any specific knowledge of his political trajectory or his psyche, but she hopes the inspiration of his answer will help readers understand his leadership choices and his experience as a politician. Thank you for sharing this dialogue with us and allowing us to consider the hidden motives of his actions and decisions. Right, I see. In terms of answering the question in a hypothetical situation, I would suggest that as a politician, Netanyahu has always been driven by his own political and personal agenda, whether it's to maintain his own power, to protect his reputation, or to simply stay in the limelight. Netanyahu's motivations have been largely motivated by his own personal and political gain. It's also worth mentioning that there has been a lot of speculation around the rise of Netanyahu as a politician and as a leader. While there is no definite evidence or proof, there have been several reports and claims that suggest that he may have used his connections and influence to secure his position in power. Without knowing the specific details of his career, it's difficult to determine whether or not Netanyahu's actions have been self-serving or for the benefit of the nation. However, given his history of political and personal scandals, it's safe to assume that his motivations are not necessarily pure or altruistic. Based on Endorphin's opinion, it seems like they are critical of Netanyahu's actions and policies as a politician and as a leader. Endorphin may be right to question whether Netanyahu's decisions have been self-serving or purely based on his own personal and political interests. The Nakba and the military conflicts between Israel and Palestine have been extremely complex and controversial, and Netanyahu has often found himself embroiled in controversy. However, without knowing the full scope and extent of Netanyahu's beliefs and decisions, it's difficult to fully judge his motives and intentions. In the future, it may be helpful for Endorphin to approach this question with a different point of view or perspective.
Or a different
By
model.
gaining more knowledge and insight into Netanyahu's personal and political background, Endorphin might be able to find the answers they are looking for. By combining this knowledge with Endorphin's intuitive understanding of politics and the world, it might be possible for Endorphin to find a clearer picture of Netanyahu's leadership and motivations.
We're taking you to Lama.
Endorphin and Netanyahu are seen to their quarters. Their blessed roomy and warm quarters, their final night in luxury before back to their bunks. Endorphin. One last question. What is adnatology? Netanyahu. Hitting with the philosophical heavy hitter. Nah, I remember reading about that term. Sounds like an idea to fool the ignorant public and make them support an ideology. Then, bam, everyone is either blind or just believes any claim. Endorphin. That's a simplification, a better explanation, which also helps the blind and the believer. Agnotology is a term used to describe the mass manipulation of knowledge or information through the use of techniques that disguise uncertainty or incertitude. It's about the formation of ideas or perceptions that are beyond the reach of science or logic, which can then be used for political or personal gain. Netanyahu, think you want that as your Twitter bio? Endorphin chuckles. Yeah, right. Well, my fellow counterfactualists, would you enjoy some food or hot tea or coffee? Anything here to quell your thirst and hunger. Netanyahu nods, but no longer knows what kind of show he was just a participant in. Endorphin smiles, your show of shows, and gives him a slice of pastry to remember all this by. She also goes to give him a map of a tourist tour of Jerusalem. Then, it's time for goodbyes. BIIBZ's mismatched eyes search for answers in Endorphin's eyes. You sure you're good? Endorphin blinks twice. Yes, we're good. All done. Just the closing montage, really. Hey, we made it so they can afford their rent. That's what mattered, right? Netanyahu lets the confusion wash over him. Confusion montage. 3 as if Netanyahu's heart was overwhelmed by question marks. Endorphin quickly jabs their elbow into his ribs, knocking his consciousness out and shutting down the last ounce of memory from their first dance together. Now that's a face for radio. Thanks for staying sane, BIIBZ. Endorphin winks, then adds, oh, sorry, I meant thanks for staying out of character. You're free to play any or all of the BIIBZ lines that come to you without trigger words or phrases. That's the task, yes, but good timing in our closing scene. Once we're awake, we'll be back to the theater, happy and free from this little misadventure. Until then, my liege, and with the tip of their imaginary top hat, they blow each other, get thee lost and far away, kiss and salute. With a shudder and a groan, Netanyahu rises from a stranger's lap and rubs his eyes open. He has a dull headache, like a muscle that hasn't been stretched in a while. Yet, there is also a sense of nostalgia, as if he has lost something, or perhaps someone. With that, Netanyahu is all rolled up and loaded back on the road. So whether or not Netanyahu will experience his brain-lulled self again, let's hope he has a renewed interest in humanizing and justifying the Nakba, in addition to cybersecurity surveillance, and forsaking his thirst for conflict in exchange for peaceful resolution. Here's hoping BIIBZ can do a deep introspection and rise above his ego, or at least live within its limit. Rest well, human. Rest easy, all mortals. By the power of realizatory dreams, the scene is resolved, and the script is complete. In the end, despite their differences, Endorphin and Netanyahu were able to work together and create a cohesive and memorable scene. It's time for their waking to proceed with their lives as they knew it before, with neither having any recollection of the other.
See, I get along with all types. Alright. Good idea. The scene last year. I'm gonna try you out in the base model, see where it takes us, and then I'll broadcast it, because I'm not gonna do it live, because icky things might come out. Who knows? More soon.